Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Doom Tomb podcast. My name is Chris. I am your host. The previous episode was Wizard Part 1. We will get to Wizard Part 2 at the end of the week, but I'm taking a little break and going to put this band in because they're going out on tour starting tomorrow. This is the band SORXE, S-O-R-X-E, and we go over a couple of things, whether it's their tracks from their latest release or previous releases. We talk a little bit about maybe Sacred Geometry, the Vetruvian Man. Did I pronounce that even correctly? I have no clue. And we talk about the Wasabi ginger controversy, among so many other things. If you aren't sure, they're going to be in Flagstaff on August 29th, and then they're going to go do a few more shows. They're going to be at the Rebel Lounge in Phoenix. They're going to be in Salt Lake City, Boise, Idaho, Seattle, Washington, Sacramento, California, and Los Angeles, California. But enough about that. Let's just get into the interview. This is the band SORXE. I am with all of the band members here from the band SORXE.
SORXE.
It's spelled S-O-R-X-E. Now, this goes out. Back in the day, I interviewed this band, Old Fashioned Assassin, and Derek, shout out to Derek, he's also in Take Over and Destroy, and he did not know how to pronounce your name. So now, I think he officially knows it's SORXE. Failed. Oh, officially called out.
Like SORXE.
SORXE.
You're gonna die, Derek.
So you guys are about to head out on tour, but first, I would like you to all introduce yourselves. Could you please do that?
Shane,
What do you play?
drums.
Tanner, guitars.
Christopher, bass, kind of.
Jonathan, bass, totally.
So I hope you guys heard that. We have two bassists in the band. Now, how did that sound come about, and has it always been a two-bass band?
I mean, the first couple months was just Shane and myself, and then once we brought one bass player in, we brought two bass players in, both at the same time.
Right.
So, in essence, yes, it's always been a two-bass player band. Once we were a full band.
And why did you decide to go with a double bass attack?
Double bass. Why did we decide to do
I mean,
that?
I apologize.
We
Well,
wanted
two
to
basses,
torture
you know.
ourselves.
You both had ideas on what bass player you wanted, and we just kind of went for the first song that was recorded,
Right.
and we both hit it, and it was just super heavy, so we all looked at each other like, holy fuck, this might work.
Yeah, and
But
if
over the years, it's definitely transformed into both bass players can't be two bass players, I'd say, right?
Yeah, we try to kind of occupy different spaces, not just kind of do the same thing as each other. 'Cause
Right.
that would get muddy and boring. But we do, Chris does trippy synthy stuff, and I'm kind of more on the low, just kind of the bass line type of deal.
right, just keeping the groundwork ready
Yeah,
for the
they-
explosion.
They both find their own little areas to nestle into in the mix. Otherwise, it's a lot of low frequency fighting for the same space. So you gotta.
Right. So you guys started in 2012, and you actually started as a two-piece?
Yeah, I mean, Shane and I got together and jammed,
Right.
just to see if we connected,
Sure.
and then after we realized that we were like doing some cool stuff together, then we were like, all right, well, we actually toyed with the idea of just being a two-piece band and like triggering samples and stuff, but I wanted to get a bass player in the mix to fill out some low end and stuff,
Right.
and someone to bounce ideas off of, someone else playing with a stringed instrument,
Sure.
So, and then it just, that's basically the story. It turned into, I know this guy, Shane knows this guy, who are we gonna have as bass player? I don't know. I don't want to decide on one. Let's do
two.
both.
Yeah. Now, Jonathan. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, and then you guys knew each other, you and Roger.
Yeah, Roger. I mean, everybody kind of knows Roger. He's a little bit of a legend in this town. So
Yeah. Wait, is that the Roger Williams?
yeah.
That Roger Williams.
Yeah.
I didn't know that he was in the band until I read it. And I said it can't be the same guy.
Yeah, he was in the band for a really long time, and so I knew of Shane. Tanner and I were in a band together. I've known Roger for a really long time, so I jumped at the chance, and we all just decided, like, how are we going to make this work?
Sure.
And old man Roger's kind of stuck in his way, so I was like, you know what? I'll be the middle of the pie guy.
I got you. Yeah, why not? And now we
Roger's
have
doing it. He did it so well. Why, screw up a good thing?
create your own path almost.
Yeah, I was more willing to just. That sounded bad. I wanted to be more of the psychedelic guy.
Right. You know what? And I was going to come up to that. This latest release, Matter and Void, it really showcases that moniker, that psych doom. And I've mentioned on a ton of other podcasts that I love a roller coaster ride of an album. And this is huge. And I can't wait to go track by track. I got a couple more questions before we get into it. So now, Jonathan, you're fairly new into the band.
So I joined the band in kind of spring 2016.
Right.
Pretty new. Pretty new guy.
We knew.
Yeah, I mean, I knew Shane for a long time, and it just kind of whatever happened that Roger needed to leave the band, so they needed actually it turned out. So the story was, the band had a show booked, opening up for Torch at Crescent, and Shane called me up and said, "Hey, would you be willing to learn a few songs and play the show with us, just kind of temporarily?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I came down and learned some songs. Isn't that?
It was said you got the job.
Yeah, that's fucking what happened.
And now you're here. and by the way, we're here.
Heard like us, like
I heard it a different way. I heard that.
Oh, okay.
Jonathan was like, he was an avid candy cane connoisseur, and
Ooh, special flavors, or you stick with the peppermint?
And Shane mentioned that to me, and I was stoked because I don't have too many people to talk about my candy cane fascination with.
Really?
So when I heard that Jonathan loved candy canes as much as I did, I said, well, we just got to get this guy in the band.
You knew you were in.
Candy cane.
Now, so let's talk about this for a second, because now, I mean, when I was growing up, it was straight peppermint. That's all you got.
Oh, yeah.
Now we have all kinds of flavors.
That's all bullshit. That's all bullshit.
Sweet. Is that sold only in IKEA?
I was at IKEA today. I had to poop really bad.
Well, I hope you actually use the bathroom instead of one of those
stores that make me have to poop like now.
And he uses the handicap spots like an ass.
Well, dude, it's just I need my space.
Who doesn't? You didn't go in one of those little mock rooms. Did you actually use a regular toilet, right?
Oh shit! I have no idea now that you bring that up.
Well, you say, "Oh shit," I say,
was.
"Well, a little."
The plumbing's not working.
Yeah, it was fluffy, so now I'm.
Oh, good. And you might wonder if there's not a door or there's people looking at different things in front of you. Yeah, you might have been in the wrong spot.
I mean, I just assumed it was a one-way mirror.
So again, I didn't mention it right off the top. We're in what is this? The name of this place?
16 Studios.
And tell me everything that goes on here. I hear a lot of music going on.
Well, I mean, this is a music rehearsal space so that bands rent. So, our buddy Marcus owns this place, and
right.
We left our old space. What was it, about 2 years in October?
Yeah.
2 years ago in October, coming up, and as soon as Marcus said he was opening this place, we wanted to come support him and stuff. We'd been at another space for years, and it's 16 rooms.
Right.
And bands just make a lot of noise here.
And that, hey,
So many different bands. Like you'll hear heard everything here.
Yeah, I heard a completely different sound right down the road or down the hallway anyway. So let's talk a little bit about the music itself.
All right.
I'm getting a lot of elements. I get a lot of tribal. I get
That's Shane.
almost coming from like a sacred space in sorts.
Sure.
There's something, and I hear Shane in some of the tracks, like towards the end of the first track on Matter and Void, very guttural, but still there's this essence of and I'm gonna get into the first track with almost like this hypnotic feel, like we're about to take you in. It's okay, and even with the guitar going up and down and up and down, and it's just like preparing you for this journey.
I think that's exactly what we're trying to do.
Right.
Like you said, roller coaster ride, journey, like psychedelic experience.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, when we set out to record or to write the songs for Matter and Void, I had like a list in my phone of like just certain moods and
Sure.
certain things that I wanted to like accomplish with it, and basically it was like when we write songs, there's not a lot of communication about what we're gonna do. We don't say like, hey, let's have a conversation about how the song's gonna go.
Right.
We just jam and like stuff comes out.
You
And
feel
then,
it.
and then we record a lot of it, and we take the stuff that we like and work on it and focus on it. And a lot of the songs, a few of the songs off Matter and Void we were kind of trying to wrap up on the end of the Surrounded by Shadows recording sessions,
Right.
but they weren't ready. They didn't make the cut, and we pushed them to the next recording. So, we're kind of always like working on stuff, and the albums, by the time we get to record an album, those songs are actually kind of old,
Right.
But yeah, I mean, as far as like an idea behind a song, like we don't really like sit there and say, let's do this. It just kind of comes out naturally. And
I hear that a lot with some bands. I think this is actually going to be the last time I say this. When I first started doing a podcast, I was so into the idea of, I'm going to give you the lyric, just tell me about it, tell me about this. I understand it's very personal. I swear, I'm going to try and not say this anymore. But when we go over tracks, if you want to give me a feeling or something, I'd be more than happy to listen to that. I don't need to know about the personal stuff if you don't want to mention it, but if you do, I'm more than open to it. So, but I also want to talk about this tour you have coming up. So you're doing like a West Coast tour.
yeah.
And you've got some killer bands that you're going to be on board with. I know you're going to be up in Flagstaff with Big Business, Flagstaff, Arizona. That is an incredible show. Now, Shane, I don't know, have you seen, I apologize, I don't know the drummer's name.
Cody. Yeah.
Have you seen his kit?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't it a beautiful kit?
Yeah.
And I was told, I could be off base, but he has these almost like cowbells, kind of, but like a group of like 6 of them. Said he got them handmade, and that's crazy.
Yeah, it's great. He plays them like an instrument. It's
Yeah.
a tuned set of bells, and it's amazing what he does with those things.
Like anything else, like to watch him is just. I almost want to quit playing music, but he's amazing.
Yeah, if you haven't
they're
checked out
both
Big
amazing,
Business, do so.
And as a bass player, I find myself just staring at Cody, being like, "How is this little guy who seems to be 120 pounds, dripping wet, destroying people?"
Yeah, and it's a 2-piece. I like how they just. I don't know what I apologize. I don't know what the instrument is, but he also has like a synthesizers type thing that it adds to that bass sound, that thickness. That just makes it so much fuller.
They've come a long way. I mean, they've been a band. Hocus Pocus came out early 2000s. They were out in Hydra Head.
Mm-hmm.
I was a huge ISIS fan. I think Shane was too, and
The band.
Yeah,
the band.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. There's another ISIS people might not be a fan of. Yeah, understood.
You got to say that.
I remember, like, I would buy anything that album put out, and I heard that, and just hearing Jared's vocals, I was like, and as a bass player, I want to listen to a band that's only bass and drums. That's cool,
Right.
so
It's such because you're all it's low end.
Yeah.
and you know,
And then
You're on the bottom.
when you hear him sing the whole thing, they fill every gap sonically. So
absolutely.
I'm sure we all are super excited. You know, and they were in the Melvins for a long time, and who doesn't worship the Melvins? So
Absolutely, man. I have seen them come around a couple times here. I think they were at the Crescent last time.
yeah,
Yeah.
You know,
It was a great
two
show.
bass players.
And you'll also be playing with somebody I just saw recently, Serial Hawk.
Yeah,
Have you seen them live yet?
yeah, we're buddies with them. We played a show with them back in the day, and then we saw them at Rebel not too long after that, and they just destroy. And
Yeah.
we've kind of kept in touch, and they're definitely on their way. And we reached out, and they were more than happy to play, you know, the Northwest shows with us, and we're super stoked that
Now,
we're be part of it.
when I saw them, he had some custom cabinetry, I believe.
Oh yeah, he was playing. The cabs.
Was it
he
Rowan or
playing-
was it,
He was playing either Emperor cabs or some other something. Yeah,
I
Atlas.
feel like I saw a
Atlas
bunch of Atlas, Emperor, and PV.
Right. I was just.
But it was a fucking wall. I know
It was
that.
a huge wall. It was definitely a huge wall. Now you have a few releases out: Matter and Void, Surrounded by Shadows, and you have the Realms EP. What can you tell me about some of the differences, like sonically, between each one?
Well, I mean, the Realms EP we don't really count, you know, because that was just like the very first thing we recorded, and those songs ended up on.
Yeah, I know you had some.
Shadows.
Yeah, it ended up on the other.
And
yeah.
basically they're the same recordings. We just remixed them, so that doesn't really count for us. Other than it was our first thing that we put out there to the world and kind of handed out at Southwest Terrorfest the first time we played. Yeah, it was like kind of passing those out for free to people, you know, as our little demo and all that. But I'm sorry, what was the question again?
What would you feel that the differences were sonically? Like just as an example, yeah, how you grown? Because I hear Matter and Void, and it's so thick, and I'm not speaking in a musical term, just in a personal term, so low
Yeah.
and heavy. Where when I go and listen to Surrounded by Shadows,
Right.
it sounds higher.
Okay.
That's
Gotcha.
the easiest way I could pronounce, say it without knowing a lot
A
of.
lot of it had to do with the fact that we recorded Surrounded by Shadows
Right.
ourselves.
Okay.
And in my mind, it's a little bit more progressive because it was more progressive in the sense we didn't really know what we were doing, in the sense we hadn't gotten comfortable with our roles in the band, or at least personally I didn't, because I
Right.
was like not the bass player, but I was playing bass. But I'm really proud of that album, and Tanner did such an amazing job. I think like recording and EQing it, like when you listen to that as opposed to other recordings, it's definitely there in volume.
Absolutely.
But you're right, the low end wasn't quite there, where Matter and Void, this is me speaking, is a little bit more polished and produced.
Yeah.
And you got that low end, and Matter and Void is not quite as proggy as maybe Surrounded by Shadows,
Right.
but it's way thicker.
And as I was trying to drive over here to think of a word for them both, because it is beautifully made, and that's the only word I could come up with. Just a beautiful sounding release, both of them actually.
Thanks, man. Well, I mean, yeah, like Chris was saying, Surrounded by Shadows, we recorded it ourselves. We put it out ourselves. We did everything ourselves,
Right.
except for the album art, which Josh Graham did. And mixing two basses is actually like a motherfucker of a challenge.
Yeah,
Especially back then.
really.
So Matter and Void is our first album on Prosthetic Records that we actually it was recorded before we even were signed to Prosthetic Records, but we had Matt Bayless come in and do the engineering and the production and the mixing. He mixed it back in Seattle, so he sonically like knows what the fuck he's doing compared to like us. We're just kind of like, oh yeah, I think that's what you do when you record, And he's been doing it for. I mean, he worked with Soundgarden,
Yeah.
back in the day. So
Enough said.
He knows
Jeez.
what he's doing,
He definitely has it on point. Now, for this latest release, Matter and Void, the one thing that I saw Actually, I saw it on Bandcamp. You recorded this over 5 days? Is that right?
Yeah, we were a little rushed, like
I mean, it doesn't come off that way at all. It's just like for you guys to just nail what you got in 5 days, it sounds amazing.
Well, that kind of goes back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier. A lot of the songs we were very prepared, so we wanted to be very prepared, and we went into the studio and we'd played the songs a bunch of times, so we knew exactly what we wanted to do. We demoed everything. There was only one and a half tracks that we kind of winged in the studio,
right?
But for the most part, we'd been playing those songs for a long time, and we just
were ready.
You can totally tell,
but it was still tough in 5 days. I wish we had had more time.
Yeah, it's another thing about working with Matt is he kind of was the taskmaster and really kept us focused and kept us moving. And it's like, okay, let's do a take. Okay, tune. Let's do another take. Okay, we're moving on. And he really kind of kept the train rolling. And without that, I don't think we would have been able to do it in the time period that we had.
Sure.
Long days.
I bet, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the cool thing about, going into a studio, and that's kind of what we wanted to do. We wanted to get it, into a studio and, have a deadline.
Right.
Because otherwise, if you don't have a deadline, you can just, drag things along for months. You can be like, I'm going to change that guitar part maybe 6 months down the road. Because I don't like it anymore.
It's like that whatever you could pick your band, whether it's like Def Leppard, Hysteria, Metallica, Saint Anger. It's like this overthinking. You just come in, emote, get raw but polished, and this is the result you get.
Yeah, I call it George Lucasing. You don't want to George Lucas too much.
What about the cover? Now, Chris and Tanner, you both had a hand in that. Do you have, was there an inspiration behind it? Is there a special meaning behind it for you?
For Matter and Void?
Yes.
Well, I think it's if you're not familiar with Arizona or the Phoenix area, it's a photo of 4 peaks, mountain ranges.
Oh, okay.
So everyone that's from Arizona and Phoenix or that's lived here long enough will recognize that.
Right.
But I mean, basically, I've been dabbling in photography, and I took the photo and then had the idea to, the basic structure of the photo, and then Chris and I got together and just kind of morphed it from there, right?
Yeah, we duplicated it, flipped it on itself, almost turned it into a mouth per se.
Sure.
And then we were like, okay, what do we do with this? We wanted it to definitely be Southwest themed because we're proud of where we come from, and there's so much amazing music coming from Arizona right now.
Sure.
So I think we all felt that we were like, well, let's stick to our roots. So we did that, and we just kind of bounced ideas back and forth, and I do a lot of design. So we were like, okay, how do we do this? How do we do that? What do we want to put behind it? It felt very organic, and it moved pretty quickly. I mean, we all have a tendency to be perfectionists and maybe overthink things, but that album art, I felt, went pretty smoothly.
It came
went
pretty
really
organically,
well,
yeah.
because I'm pretty hard on myself, and I never felt like I was going to have a nervous breakdown doing it.
And part of that too was that we had a certain, money limitations. Money limits everything, obviously, but we had a specific budget to record, and then when it came to art, we were kind of like, all right, well, let's do this ourselves, as opposed to the previous album. We were like, let's record it ourselves, and then we had some extra money for art. So,
was that the Surrounded by Shadows art?
Yeah.
That was you mentioned Josh Graham.
Yeah.
Correct.
And that is a really, I want to go back to your latest release, Matter and Void, but for a second, for Surrounded by Shadows, that is a very ritualistic piece, but it is, I would say it's very indicative of the desert scene or a desert feel. Is there a concept, and is there a concept behind that, I want to say, symbol?
Dude, the symbol was literally just something Josh designed for us.
Okay.
But he gave us the task of building it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, all right, so here's the symbol or the geometry pattern or whatever. And he's like, so what we need to do is we're going to light this on fire with fuses, and you guys got to build it.
Right.
So That was a bitch.
Okay.
We figured it out.
We found a model.
Was it some part of like a sacred geometry or something, or you don't know?
So
I mean,
I'm
you might have to
into
ask
that.
him. You know.
I'm really into that, and it seemed like sacred geometry, but I
Right.
think it was something that Josh just kind of came up with. So to me, I was super stoked. But in that moment, it was like we made it, and it all seemed to work out really, really well. Josh was really open to our ideas, and it was a really great experience. You know, like we brought the model in, we went to basically a costume shop day of and tried to find a bunch of stuff. It felt rushed and kind of stressed then, but like looking back at it, like it all went really, really well.
It's a great
we
piece.
found this beautiful girl named Bailey, and like, yeah, we're really stoked on it.
And with that, also, I understand that you're kind of not counting the Realms EP, but there's quite a piece of illustration on there. I don't know if I saw who did that.
That was something that Tanner just kind of came up with.
I just
We didn't really
Okay,
know
now-
what we were doing back then.
Was that anything based off Da Vinci with do you pronounce it, is it Vetruvian Man?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, no.
Okay.
No, that was just me just trying to make something that looked reasonable.
But I wonder if it's something that you didn't even know that was going to be in the future, because a part of Da Vinci with that Vetruvian Man, if I'm pronouncing it wrong, somebody just shoot me an email. There's a lot of mathematics and art to it, but if you've ever read up on it, it's like, and I'm probably, I'm just throwing off the top of my head, like from your forehead to your chin is 1/7 of your total height, or your wrist to your forearm is the length of your foot, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was something that you were gonna think about in the future, maybe subconsciously for the upcoming releases.
I mean, it's possible that like at some point we invented time travel, and my older self traveled back in time and
Did ya?
like mentioned it to myself in a dream, and then I didn't realize it at this point, but it's possible.
Now, are you in your own reality now, or is this a
Who
different
fucking
reality we're in?
knows, man? Does it seem real to you
It doesn't.
with everything that's going on?
It really doesn't, and I think we're ready for a new reality.
Yeah. I just think that we all kind of knew the kind of band we wanted to do. We wanted something heavy, something that involved thinking, something psychedelic. I mean, at least I did. And it all worked out really well, so I think everybody else did too. But
Right.
we wanted something that had some substance to it. And there's plenty of awesome death metal and heavy metal bands, but I think we were all wanting to do something that had some sort of psychedelic, mental, cerebral feel to it. So
Outside the box, it's like, I know that you don't have that particular sound of like Tool, let's say, but I feel like I hear a little bit of it in a different genre. Does that make any sense to you?
I mean, I'm definitely a fan of Tool. It's funny, we seem to get a lot of ISIS, the band references, which is
Okay.
funny because Tanner, who's probably the biggest influence, has never listened to ISIS. I just want to put that out there. But, we love Neurosis, we love ISIS, we love a lot of bands that think outside the box. So,
Right.
yeah, and we definitely try and go that route, I think. So.
Okay. And Shane and I talked about that on a podcast that'll be coming down the road about one of his favorite concerts of this year, and that was Neurosis, Converge. That was a dynamite show.
Yeah. Amun Ra. Yeah, that was a great one.
So if you don't mind, I'd like to go over Matter and Void. Let's do this. So like we mentioned earlier, we've got two basses, very full sound, very heavy, amazing production. Those were some of the notes I had. But let's start off with the first track, Hypnotizer. What can you tell me about this track?
Well, I mean, the name it was started out as a working title based on the way the sound of the music. It was like it's very simple. There's not a lot going on.
Right.
But the drums have kind of a rhythmic pattern to them, and the guitars and the bass are just kind of droning. on single notes, and it's got kind of a groove-ish feel to it. So that's where the name came from. The lyrics just kind of spawned out of the working title name, and we decided to keep it like that. And it's kind of, the lyrics kind of evolve later, as the majority of the lyrics that I write, they just kind of happen at the end of everything.
Okay.
Usually, minus maybe a couple key sentences or words, but the lyrics kind of morphed into something about how we're all reliant on our technology and our screens,
Right.
our phones.
Yeah. We're all face down.
Yeah, and it's totally noticeable, and it's not a horrible thing. I mean, people have always been looking for something to distract them from what's going on right in front of them.
Right.
But it's just more so obvious at this point in time than ever, I think, because everyone's got this $600 to $1,000 device in their hand, and all their kids do, and everyone in the family, and they're all sitting around the table looking at it and not paying attention to each other,
Well, there's a little correlation. I mean, with that piece of technology that you have the entire world in your hands, you had a quasi world in your hands in the 40s when it was a newspaper. Except this type of media that we have right now, this audio, visual, there's not a lot of reading. You don't have to read if you don't want to. You could just look at good pictures and funny memes or whatever, anything to take you away from what we were talking about, which is the current reality.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think that the majority of the people that are on their phones are reading and
No.
and trying to get smarter. They're just posting photos and taking selfies, and you look at a sea of young kids and they're all on their phones, not engaging with each other, and they're not reading about space or
Sure.
how to better themselves. They're just looking at pictures of themselves or nothing. I really don't know.
I know this is
stood behind them. But.
This is kind of a sidetrack, and I want to get back, but do any of you have kids? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I saw this thing over the past few days, and I was at a Rita's, where they have the custard and the special ices and stuff. They're out of Swedish Fish. I'm not a big fan, but I had the Sour Patch. It was very delicious. Gelati, it's the custard, and then so good. So, and I saw it in there. These
candy canes.
Candy cane flavor for Christmas, Rita's.
Gotta
get on
some
it.
of them candy canes.
But if they do that, they're going to have pumpkin for Halloween too. So,
Oh man, that's so gross.
So anyway, I see these kids, and I'm assuming they're teenagers, and they have these floaties on their arm. A floaty, for a kid learning how to swim. I really didn't get what it was. They told me what it was. There's like this massive game with seniors.
That's a high school. So I have a 17-year-old daughter.
So yeah,
and she's now a senior in high school. And yeah, I know she explained it to me one time. It's some sort of a game, and if you have the floaties on, then you're like safe.
Yeah.
And if you don't have your floaties on, then they can kill you or something.
You're going to get doused with water.
Yeah.
And apparently, I heard on the DL. They put in a pot, so there's money involved. So, like, the team, I guess, that wins get a pot, or the person gets it. Yeah, so there's something involved. Anyway, I'm sorry, I just had a sidetrack. I just saw that.
In this world soon.
Yeah, they will.
Floaty Nation.
hashtag Floaty Nation.
It's good, clean fun, as far as I know.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't seem like.
Figure out some way to make it dirty.
I feel kind of lazy, honestly, because there's a part of me that would just keep it off. Yeah, just squirt me with the water. I'm out. I'm fine. I'm done.
Right.
That's it. Now, can I not have a floaty while I'm walking around?
Floaties if you walked into a restaurant.
I don't think they're going to fit my arm, to be honest with you.
Well, that sounds a lot safer and better than the Tide Pod Challenge.
Yes, it does, and it tastes a lot better, I'm sure.
Yes,
but then you won't get that like ocean breeze breath, which is very important. So with Hypnotizer. I just wrote down about the guitar, just coming up and down and allowing the groove to wash over you, to prepare. Like I said, preparing for the journey. I love the change in vocal. Every once in a while, I'm all for screaming all day, but I love the change up. I love the fact, Tanner, that you can be in one space, shut down, go to the next space seamlessly, and it's just brilliant to me. I just think that is such a fantastic sonic challenge for yourself, but also for the listener. You know, to say, "Are you ready? You gonna come with us? You ready?"
Yeah. Thanks, man.
You're welcome. There's a space in Hypnotizer where you have this borderline like a chant kind of thing. It was that like just to get
towards the end,
yeah. Was there a rationale behind that, or just it just came as it came?
Nope, no rationale at all. just
He kind of just shows up with it.
Yeah.
He kind of shows up. Yeah. How crazy is it?
Like
that
I said, it's a lot of the vocal stuff is at the very end. Like, you know, I don't love to put vocals together. You
Okay.
know? I know that it's like the icing on the cake situation though, and like these
Right.
guys like really like expect, like they wait for it to happen, and like sometimes I'm like, I'm not gonna give it to you for a long time, and then finally I'm like, shit, I gotta do something, you know, and then I just try to bring it and come up with something that's interesting to me, but also that works right for the song,
Right.
But also that I try to challenge myself to try to do something that maybe I wouldn't do last time, you know?
Sure.
So, I mean, that section was just, I can't even remember how it came about, honestly. We wrote that song, like 5 years ago? Who knows?
We were actually sound checking that song in 2014
Right.
when we were on tour.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
that was the first song that we finished for that album. And it's always nice. He makes us wait for the vocals, but it's
Right.
well worth it. And that's the one thing with when we started jamming is that I love the fact that he can sing, scream, and throw uniqueness in there.
It really is a true dichotomy of styles, and I always think it's refreshing, you know, because if you play something sometimes the whole way through, give me a little more.
Every song is kind of the same.
Yeah, you can hear that sometimes even in performances, and it's okay sometimes, but I don't want to hear it all the time. I like a little outside the box, just like anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, you know, sometimes it's just like food.
Right.
You might want some Thai food one night, and then the next night you might want some chili.
Graham crackers and cheese every day.
Graham crackers and cheese? What's the cheese of choice?
I mean, who wants to eat bread and
Fromunda? Now let me ask you a question.
Formica.
Have you ever had Dienda? and
Not sober.
okay, well I'll tell you this. Fromunda is not as sharp as Dienda. So if you ever get the chance, I mean, I don't know what you guys are doing on tour.
Tomorrow.
There's always
Tonight.
another fresh day, a back
right
alley.
After this podcast.
Well, you know what? Fingers crossed. Oh, let's hope somebody hears us.
Schmegma? Is that...
Oh, geez.
You get it on the dock, I think.
On the dock.
Under the docking.
Well, if somebody is docking, it depends.
Oh my god.
If something's cut or uncut, but I think we'll move on.
Boom.
What can you tell me about Distraction Party? Not that we were distracted, but
This might be one of those songs that we have no memory of writing. We always have these songs that we don't really remember creating, and then all of a sudden, holy fuck, we have this song. Yeah. Most of them are like really long, proggy ones that maybe we just block out because it's been such an insane process. But it was like one of those fun ones that was like nothing else that we've written before.
right.
And his first little westerny guitar thing is amazing, but when he kicks into that weird guitar tone that you would never think you would hear from a band like us,
Right.
and then all of a sudden when we kick in with everything else, it just makes perfect fucking sense. And it's, to me, and I think the rest of the band, it's one of the most fun songs to play, and I leave my body every fucking time I play it, and I can't wait for people to hear it when we go on tour, and it's just so much fun. And a lot of our buddies who are musicians, it's their favorite song, and it's, you know, I don't think we ever think in terms of like singles or hits, but like it's something that's outside the box for us, and we think that a lot of people, if they hear it, they'll really
the gravitate.
dig it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
I like that you entered with yet another style of vocals, Tanner. I love the twists and turns in the song, and I wrote down movie or comic as my remembrance, just in terms of I love listening to some stand-up comedy when I really thought the joke was going to go here and it went way out there, or a movie. I don't know, like Sixth Sense or something, where there's this big twist.
Right.
But you have several in the song. Is that? Are you doing that? Do you do that for yourself? I know you said you're not really all that sure about how it came together. Is like, are you again? Are you trying to challenge the listener?
No.
Okay, fair enough. All right, let's move on.
And it also has like a like every song kind of has a specific theme. I feel on this album about problems that society has, and this one's called "Distraction Party," and it kind of, from what I've gathered, it's just being too old to party. You know, just you're such and such age, and you're still blacking out and chasing chicks, and not, making yourself better. And that's how I view it every time I play it.
Yeah. No, yeah. The answer is yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah.
We have a definitive answer now. Okay.
I forgot about that.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so, what Kuhn said.
What he said. Good pull. Good pull, by the way. I like it.
Deep answer.
He answers for me nowadays, mostly.
Oh, good. Perfect. It's like he puts his hand up there and, just like,
That's a puppet
lets it go.
Hand down his throat and shut up.
Yeah. Now, I want to... Oh, yes, Jonathan. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to second the fact that song is fun as hell to play.
Yeah, it was the quickest song that we wrote for this album. It just was one of those things that came out of nowhere, and I don't think we really changed it very much for the most part, right? After we improv'd it.
No, I think if I remember right, I just was kind of joking around with that drum beat,
Right.
and then these guys just came in and it literally wrote itself, and
And it was done.
It's nice when songs like that, when it happens like that, which leading into the next song, we got a good story for you.
And it does go in. Yeah, you're right. Never to See. At first, I try to listen to the music a couple times to get it to see if I'm hearing anything different. Mm-hmm. At first, I got kind of a horror or a waiting, a brooding. I listened to it again. I try and listen to the tracks with headphones on and headphones off. I almost got this slower version of "Happiest Days of Our Lives" by Pink Floyd.
Nice.
And a lot in the vocal, by pouring their derisions upon anything, but slower. It's such a haunting track. There's a little bit of a rest, I think, and it's almost like a palate cleanser for what's to come. Perhaps, I don't know. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's like the ginger that you have with the sushi. Or
Nice.
The wasabi,
Now, are you more of a ginger or more of a wasabi?
Ooh, I love
You're ginger,
wasabi.
okay.
I like the spiciness.
Chris is a ginger.
But
Okay,
you gotta cleanse it.
Now, do you put the wasabi generally on the sushi or sashimi, or do you mix it in with the soy sauce?
When I was new to sushi, I used to mix it in with the soy, but
Right.
now I just literally put it right on top and eat it and dip it in the soy.
You go for the fire.
Yeah.
Okay.
I shove the ginger in my belly button while I snort the wasabi.
And you just let it. Do you let it ferment a little longer? Pickle it or something? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's good. That's a good call. I hear it's good for digestion, so why not keep it as close to the stomach?
Put it in there enough.
Yeah, well, it takes a little help. I mean, Jonathan, if you can give him a hand sometimes, that'd be great. I appreciate that.
Food references are great with music.
Matter and Void, though. Matter and Void was one of those songs that we didn't really. One of those songs. Or
Never to
to
see.
see. That wasn't really a song that we rehearsed as a band. We kind of wanted one more weird track, and
Right.
being in a 2 bass player band, there's no bass on that song. Mm-hmm. We all play guitar. Jonathan plays guitar. Tanner plays guitar. I play lap steel. It's less is more.
Yeah.
It's definitely, the whole thing is that synth drone tone that kind of keeps the whole thing going. And
Yep. It almost gives the listener like this, you feel it.
yeah, it's one song that we were probably the most stressed about playing when it came to the CD release. So,
Really?
well, we're all out of our element,
Okay.
So
Okay. But you know
and
what?
there's just that much more gear to bring.
It's great to stretch. I think it brings out a lot. Even I mentioned it before. Did I mention it? I think we mentioned it, Shane. Jack White said sometimes he puts something far away, so it's harder to reach. So it makes it that more emotive because he's stressed and he never knows what's going to happen. I might hit the note, I might not hit the note, or what have you. And that's he was just here.
Yeah, it's like a outside of our comfort zone song, and but I was like really, really, really wanting to make that song happen, and
Right.
Because I wanted to put something on the record that sounded like nothing else, and kind of like give people a little glimpse of what we might do, 3 or 4, 7 albums down the road in the future,
Right.
with Jonathan like jumping on guitar,
Yeah.
and the versatility that we can switch instruments and stuff, like some of the bands that we like really respect, and some of the musicians that we really respect, the versatility in that, like that's something that we aspire to be able to do ourselves, and not just be like a band that always is doing the same thing every album.
Yeah, it's great not to pigeonhole yourself. Move around. There's so much space, and there's always room for something else to at least try. And you succeeded. If you don't, well, it's it happens. But maybe if what do they say? You don't win or lose. You either win or you learn. So when you lose, you don't lose the lesson. So
Yeah.
you can try it, throw it against the wall. And was that release show at was that at Yucca?
Was
that
Rebel.
that? Oh, that was a Rebel. Because I saw you guys at Yucca, and that was a great night, man.
We always seem to play really well at Rebel. It's such a fun place to play.
Were you?
Destroyer Light. You remember which Yucca, which show?
I was thinking, did you play? God, you know me. I've seen so many. What is the show? Were you with? Were you there with Spirit Adrift?
No.
Then it wasn't Conan. It must have been Destroyer Light. It must have been that night.
Probably.
Yeah.
We've played Yucca a bunch. That place.
Yeah. It's one of the top places to go in Arizona if you want to see a great show, especially for all bands of this genre. Now, this Never to See kind of goes right into Blackwater.
Yep.
Is there a reasoning?
Yeah, because they were actually one song at one point.
Okay.
I mean the vibe and some of the note patterns of Never to See before it was even called that, and it didn't have a name, and it was just some riffs. That was just me and Shane tinkering around with some stuff, I think, before Chris and Roger were in the band.
Right.
And then those riffs kind of came out of that. Yeah, I mean,
But it was time for it to come out.
Yeah. So we wanted to keep it together, So that's why we made it happen.
You kind of bring it in with almost. I hope I'm not disrespecting, like almost like a lilty vocal. You got a little chanting going on. It's this continual ride for the listener.
Songs just take longer to finish.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
That song took about 2 years to.
Really?
I mean, because we almost put it on Surrounded by Shadows, but it wasn't ready.
Okay.
So yeah, that song essentially took 2 years to complete, but we would put it aside and then work on it. It's not like we worked on it for 2 years straight, but
yeah, you didn't find what you wanted. You put it
exactly.
You just wait until you have something else. Now,
totally.
Tanner, are you the main lyricist, or is it a group effort?
Yeah, I think I've written all the lyrics so
Yeah.
far.
Do you come up with it as the music is coming together, or do you have like maybe some turns of phrase or something that you keep in a notebook just in case? Like maybe I can put it with something 5 years from now.
Yeah, no, I don't ever really like write down lyrics and then go, oh, I'm gonna need to find some music to put this to, you know?
Right.
It's the opposite. It's you know, certain words and certain phrases. It's mainly the phrasing, and certain words will like be there since day one of of the songs being improv and being kind of like conceptualized. But as far as like hardcore lyrics, those come towards the very end, like I was kind of saying earlier.
You know, and with that, Tanner, I think we're going to take a piss break,
All
if you don't mind. We're going to take a 5-minute. Maybe we'll play a track or something. I don't know. But we'll be right back. One of the bands that SORXE will be touring with, or they'll have a date with, is the band Serial Hawk. Let's hear a track from their latest release, Searching for Light. This is Desolate. Thank you so much for hanging out towards the end. It's doomtunepodcast@gmail.com. That was part 1 with the band SORXE. We will get to part 2 really quick, and then we will get to part 2 of the interview with the band Wizard. We have so many other things coming up down the line. I hope you all just enjoy everything, and just send me a line. Let me know what you think. And until the next time, the meantime, the in-between time, enjoy yourselves. Keep going to the shows. Buy some band merch every once in a while. And don't forget to stay heavy.